Hello and good morning. So today I have something that's been really piquing my interest lately. There's a Kickstarter game from not that long ago that's been it's been kind of checking off a lot of my favorite boxes as far as strategy games go. This is something that I'm really excited for, and I hope succeeds very effectively here. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into this thing. Before we get started, bear in mind this is an in development build, so this is pre-alpha, in development, whatever the hell you really want to call it. But basically, there are going to be some bugs here and there. There's going to be some glitches. There's going to be some stuff that's not there. The usual kind of stuff that you'd expect. As far as what it is, it's essentially a mix of a whole lot of good ideas from a lot of different SRPGs. And let's get going. So. First off, I'm playing this with slightly tweaked graphical settings. Normally this game actually does have a lot of visual effects going on and all that sort of thing. Personally, I've always been a fan of just turning all those off, so I went ahead and did so. Now let's see, in my main kind of evaluation and feedback kind of run, I'm a good ways past the start here. So there will be a lot of cool mechanics coming up. Essentially, if I were to describe it, it would be something similar to a mix of let's say, kind of like an Ogre battle meets Civ meets Hand of Fate in some ways meets what's it? A little bit of a Banner Saga in there, maybe. I don't know how extensive the hunger mechanic is, so that's why I'm saying maybe on the Banner Saga part. But essentially, it's a game with squad management, team management, individual unit management, resource management. There's some crafty type stuff in there, although I haven't really been able to delve into that much. And everything about the game seems to be kind of built around this pretty freeform style that I like. Now, the very first impression of this whole thing will be something that talking with a few other SRPG folks, the first impression was a little, kind of a little bit of a mixed bag, because they weren't sure what to make of the art style specifically. But you'll see, there's actually some pretty cool stuff that he ended up doing with it. Music-wise, I've actually been really liking the score so far. Mechanics-wise, I actually hope that, I really hope to see what kind of stuff he ends up doing with this, because specifically the level up system is something that I really like. Essentially, it's this thing where everybody kind of gets more or less random access to different classes, but then once you promote them through those classes, they keep getting kind of like this draw of cards, more or less, to see whether they unlock another class, or they get another little perk, or they get a reaction ability of some kind. So first things first, we're just getting our little walking around tutorial. Your overworld type of walking around is a little bit like this. You can zoom in and out and all that sort of thing. You can also do something a little bit hilarious. So yeah, first of all, they're just basically talking back and forth of, they're worried that they were out. And she went off and grew this fairy. So obviously the very first thing I did was to go and, go to the files and try to rename that fairy Steve. Apparently the feature for renaming your units will be in there. Actually, right now all these guys are currently in my party. The fairies are always named after flowers, and there's like different naming conventions for all your different unit types and all that. And you can actually go and make all your conversations super awkward. Because you can actually just run around naked. That's actually a feature. If you run up to people and they're like, okay, well, first of all, he says to talk to him, but we're gonna skip through it real quick because almost everybody gets offended. Oh, he's gonna go down this way. So he's just gonna tell her to go put some clothes on. So they went ahead and went off that way. It's actually funny because you can get in trouble all over the place for doing this sort of thing. Actually, during my evaluation run of this whole thing, I've been kind of just going and messing with everybody. Just to see what the response is. Like, you can run into a church and piss off a priest for being naked in his church. It's pretty great. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and switch her back to being dressed here, since she is got to be at least somewhere respectable here. There are some dialogue choices in this thing. I haven't seen that explored too much just yet. Uh, Bear in mind that occasionally music will cut out. I believe there's supposed to be some music off in the background right now. Part of that is a few things that are being patched out pretty soon, as I understand. Another part of that might just be that I end up alt-tabbing in and out of the game to make sure all the recording stuff is working properly. But anyway, the first task that I kind of just went ahead and skipped through there was basically that all the three sisters here were told to go check up on these crystals. Like, yeah, I guess they're important or whatever. I guess we gotta go stare at them, and then they forgot to tell them how to actually check if they're working or not. Now, here's the thing. Knowing what I know happens later, it makes me wonder, did they actually know these things were working or not? So, hoping to find that out later. But yeah, so what's funny is that there's a lot of like little the usual thing I end up doing, going through every run the first time. It's like, oh, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? That kind of stuff. And funnily enough, most of those things have been addressed so far. So I'm glad to say that. So we got our first fight down here. And if you're wondering about your three main characters, pretty much your game over condition in this is if any of the three sisters die. Everybody else technically has permadeath. So every character that you get can die. They will be renameable and customizable and all that sort of thing. Would you like a tutorial? No, I've been doing this a fair bit, so we're going to go ahead and do that. I believe it was Blue here that had the best leadership, if I recall. Let's see, if we remove her... Yeah, because she's more of the support type thing. Okay, thanks, Aya. Can you get your text box out of the way? Yeah. So the three sisters are more or less even going into this. I like having Blue here as the leader. As far as your three main characters, you've basically got your kind of up-and-coming child here with Aya. You got your action chick with Emmy here, and you got your Agres here with Yumi. So if we do this, yeah, it's just the main three there. So you can basically have them two as one squad. You can have Aya as another one. I'm actually going to go ahead and put her in the back row and just leave these two out for the time being. Your leadership ends up going up over the course of the game. I'm just going to have these ones right here handle this particular fight. But yeah, you can have entire squads of 10 units per lance, as they're called. You're essentially going and making squads that way. Now, the way that you face, you've got your front and back lines doing different kinds of stuff. Your first characters here, or rather your first two fighter characters here, start off with some swords that are actually basically just far better than, even better than a claymore, which you end up getting a little bit later on. So they've got some pretty big advantages going into the whole thing. I'm not sure if that will continue on, but story-wise, they're supposed to have been, pretty well trained. Actually, my first question going through this the first time was, what on earth are these guards up to? Like, what are you doing just standing there? You're supposed to be protecting the town, guys. So, I think they're just there for scenery right now. That's one of those little details that I'm pretty sure just hasn't really been gotten to as of yet. But, yeah, so these slimes are coming out. The sisters are sent in to go deal with everything, because they've kind of got that whole royalty equals power thing going on. Now yeah, this is more or less the combat. You've got all of your characters and your different squads on hexes. So if someone is flanked, like at the end of your turn, you just sort of select a direction for them to face. If somebody's flanked, they can attack the back rows, but like for example right now, they can't hit the healer, but this guy would be able to circle around and hit her, because they're being attacked on the sides. Additionally, on top of that whole thing, if you have any characters that have unused actions, so each of your characters are individually assigned, they're going to individually have actions here. So only, I think it was Blue that went ahead and took a slash at that one. So the other one will have a reaction here. So every character that doesn't react that doesn't act, has a chance to react if their squad is attacked. So like right there, she went ahead and attacked. And as time goes on, you're able to go and assign more reactions to those characters. And so essentially allowing them to multi-class and get all kinds of different things going on. Specifically, there's one that healers have called a Healing Burst that's a little bit like Auto Potion from FFT, where it's just like a little minor heal that ends up popping off if somebody in the Lance is attacked. I'm probably going to interchangeably use the term Lance and Squad because I'm just used to using Squad. Actually, as far as fantasy naming conventions go, I kind of like that term. It's a good way of doing it. Funnily enough, despite the term for lances being there, I haven't found any spears yet, so I'm hoping polearms are a thing. As you may know, I'm kind of a fan of the old polearms. Gotta get halberds on everyone. But yeah. So you can make anybody into just about any class as long as it's been unlocked. So I'm hoping that using one squad here will allow me to show off the level up mechanics right off the bat. It's not terribly likely, but we'll see. Yeah, there we go. So we got 3 level ups, so good. We'll be able to show off the leveling mechanics here. So your turn order is basically you've got what could essentially be seen as 3 points, and I hope these points are later defined. Or rather, just basically points based off your movement. So like these guys have 3. So like for example, if one's moving back and forth, and then have them go ahead and attack this one, you got that sort of thing going on. And by the way, all the blobs get all kinds of different splorch names as their names. So you just basically get little notifications, oh, Glorp and Bloop and Glargle Glurble ended up getting killed off. So that's pretty great. This guy will go ahead and introduce us to the food mechanic. He's like, thanks for saving our food. Here's like 3 grand and a crap load of food. So yeah. Apparently keeping a varied diet will give you little buffs or something. I haven't quite seen the food mechanic in action yet, so it could be that that's something in the process of being implemented. It seemed like everybody was burning through foods individually, so I don't know if there's like individual flavors that certain characters like or something like that. It seems possible. So we're going to go back and report in here. Let's see, that guy's the shop. We'll come back to him later. So first things first, actually, let's go ahead and save this. Had a few little eval runs going, so we'll go ahead and save that sucker right there. Now, if we go up here, go to the level ups. So obviously all of the UI is still a work in progress here, but so you get a level up and you get 3 things. Now, each class, as far as I can tell, has 5 levels that you can get. So when your character levels up, they individually level up, but they also get 1 point towards that class. So they can max that out at 5, at which point they'll just, like for example, if she's a acolyte or something, and she got all the way to 5, then she'd just be a master acolyte, and then she wouldn't be able to get any more cards for that class. So each one has 15, but you get them in a random order. So for example, in this case, I got healing here if I want to improve her healing. I got spellcraft if I want to make her into a mage later down the line. And I have bronze. So each of the classes has a different affinity assigned with it. So for example, it seems like most of the aggressive attacky ones are stuff like red. Most of the healing support ones are stuff like bronze and white and that sort of thing. Actually, I think bronze is defense. I think white is healing. I think blue is buffs, something like that. Bear in mind for the different write-ups on the different classes and all the different things, those aren't all quite implemented. So, give that a minute. All right, so we're gonna spec her towards white because I figure she's starting off as a healer. Might as well keep her as that. Ooh, and we got access to cadet. I actually never even got access to cadet with her on the other run here, so we can go ahead and make her a cadet. She's gonna get all naked like, and yeah, we got the pouch and we got that. So cadet seems like they're gonna be more of a swordsman kind of class as far as I can tell. Now, I don't have any swords on hand for her, so we'll give her one of those when I have a chance. I'll mess around with the nakedness mechanic a little bit more, but I don't run around butt naked as I did with my eval run. Let me know if that's something you want to see. Different strokes, different folks. Alright, so I like her as the kind of fighter sort. They all come out pretty balanced going into the whole thing. I actually had her as a dual-wielding grifter for my other run here. Like I said, I don't know what a lot of these stats do in particular, but I have a pretty basic idea. As far as your crit and level ups and all that sort of thing, if you end up getting severely over level, and we're talking like you really gotta try to get to that point, then you can get to the point where you're doing kind of like a Fire Emblem kind of thing, where you're getting all of these extra hits and more hits and more hits and more hits over and over and over, and getting crits all over the place. Yeah, by saying more hits, I should just be saying crits. So that system is apparently in the process of being balanced out still. So again, this is earlier on. So I'm going to get Grifter for her because I want her to be able to unlock a Berserker. So we're going to do Blades. I actually had her as a dual axe Berserker earlier on. So we're going to actually, let's do heavy weapons on her. Why not? Just kind of the action chick, as it were. And yeah, even your beast units actually have different classes. So your wolf and your fairy that you start off with can actually can come in as different things. Like she's a mender, she might have come in as a flame touch, darkling, dryad, whatever. I don't have the right equipment to make those other classes work at the moment. So like I said, we're just gonna go in and report in. So I'm gonna wanna, actually let's go ahead and make you back into a healer for the time being. Actually no, we're gonna. I think I'm going to go to the store, pick her up a sword. Again, the cadet, as far as I can tell, makes me think of a kind of like a student going through sword training. You know how they typically had like a robe-like tunic and that weird floppy hat. If you've ever seen some old manuals of like medieval sword training and all that sort of thing, that's basically what you'd see. So what we're going to do, we're going to go here, report back to this guy, and like, hey, check it out, guy, we did our tutorial. Can you go ahead and make us do more plot stuff? I'll give you the synopsis of what he's saying here because, we're just kind of doing a run-through of all the different mechanical stuff at this point. I'm not going to delve too deeply into the story or any of that. This, by the way, is, don't worry, he's not wearing a low-cut shirt or being super naked or anything. It's just that the clothes end up loading after the initial door animation. So, now he has his clothes back, for example. Like I said, in development, so we're going to see that kind of stuff. So we're probably not going to get super far in the story this part, but I just wanted to show this stuff. So basically what he's saying is that, Blue here is about to go become the daimyo, if you will. Basically, this used to be like a provincial leader of sorts back in like ye old Japanesey times. Interesting thing, they use Dutch currency, they use European architecture, and they use Japanese names for their government. So we are in full-blown fantasy soup territory over here. You've got some classes based off, some like pseudo-historical stuff. You've got a lot that are like magical type of dealies. In fact, the setting in many ways just kind of makes me think of FFT, to be totally honest. You might be wondering why, first of all, as we're this little girl running around with a fairy. You'll see once we get to this brigand guy. I skipped through it, but basically the goal here is for you to go form an army and go fight a guy that's been going around pillaging, specifically this guy. So he wants to talk about bandits. He's like, yeah, that guy, what a douche. He's stealing all my crap. So we go in here, and we decide to make some people upset. Actually, one funny thing here, if we go ahead and go through all the different dialogue, some of the ones here kind of crack me up. So yeah, first of all, she doesn't mind at all. She's pretty happy about it. This guy, old man here, is pretty happy about it. This chick over here is like, yeah, I guess surprises are pretty great, huh? This guy over here, we don't mind the cold. It's just, I don't know, it's like one of those old details I just love. So yeah, so this guy decided to do a little bit of hitting on here. Kind of think of it, I never tested that dog. Does that dog have a custom dialogue for this? I have to know. I must know, can I get to Doge? Dang it, I can't get to the dog. Is this... Oh, you know what, Actually, no, she's here later, So what she's saying right here is that she needs some adventures, so, yeah. So she gave us 5 of her friends. Don't worry, I'm sure they'll totally come back alive. I actually wish that there was the option after you come back and they're all dead. Whoa, what? Okay, she's actually on the second floor. Actually, we're supposed to be on the second floor too. Interesting. So I stopped at the top of the stairs and came down. So the only NPC up here ended up spawning in. But I didn't actually change floors. Interesting. Alright. So, when I said I wanted my students to see the world, this isn't what I intended. Lady, get an eyeful. Alright, so basically what she's saying is, yeah, I have these kids. I'm really bad at being a caretaker, so take my kids and bring them off to war, okay? And so we're going to go ahead and do that. Now, students are your healer class. They're your basic healer class. Adventurers are your basic fighter class. So what we're actually going to do is run down, pick up some sidearms for everybody, as well as form up into little squads, and then the survivors will then form up into better squads, and if all goes well, who knows, maybe we'll actually have 2 squads that survive their first battle. So we go over here. You need clothes. This guy has a pretty good sales pitch, too. It's like, yeah, you need clothes, obviously, just buy some. So there's only 3 sets of equipment available at this point in the game. That is something that'll actually end up changing, since he already mentioned that there may be more. Oh, actually, wait a minute. Did he already do it? Hot dang, that was a quick update, dude. Okay, so just a minute ago, I don't think all the rest of this stuff was here, and now it is. So, sweet ballerness, here it is. So yeah, there's armors available for wow, that's quite the word jarble that just happened there. So there's armor available for all your different classes. Now we've got grifter specific equipment, so we're going to pick up one of them at least. We've got a couple short daggers, so I'm going to pick up some of those. We've got a sledge. You know what? I wanted what's-her-face to. Yeah, I wanted her to specialize in two-handers, so we'll get onto that. Get rid of this robe, get rid of this potion here, and yeah, that gives me enough to go and buy, probably this claymore, and I think we're good to go. Actually, yeah, Alright, we'll get more later. Actually, my other 2 times I went ahead and went to the mercenary shop, which is that guy with the beard in there, and I picked up an extra mercenary. So in order to get those, your basic soldiers cost like 2 grand. You get about 3 grand per fight, so they're a bit up there in terms of cost. So obviously you don't want anybody to die. Not that that's an easy thing to do, but alright. So what we're going to do here, who was the grifter? I think you were going to be a grifter, right? So we're going to change you over to that. Or were you the war? You know what, let's take a look at her equipment. So you've got equipment limitations and all these different things. So let's see, Knight, Adventurer, and Cadet. Alright, you know what, we're going to have Aya here with that equipment then. I might just leave her with that stuff. Let's have one of you maybe become a different class. Let's go ahead and make you an adventurer. They all strip off of all their equipment once they get to that point. So we're going to give her 2 daggers. We're going to give one of those daggers to this one, just because they're able to dual wield right off the bat. But bear in mind, for dual wielding and all that sort of thing, you actually get a pretty iffy penalty as far as they go. So she'll almost never hit with this. She just kind of uses it for a bit of a follow-up attack. She'll almost never hit with it, but it's perfectly fine. So there we go. We'll go ahead and equip you. Form up into squads. Actually, come to think of it, I could have just taken her armor instead of making her this, because the more healers, the better earlier on. Actually, she might have a really hard time explaining this to her parents when she gets back. It's like, oh, honey, what did you do today? Oh, well, you see, some random strangers basically said, hey, you should come join our army, so I went ahead and did that. And, yeah, it didn't end up going so well. They said to strip naked and go to war. I can honestly say I've made better decisions in my time, but hey, what can you do? So, one thing... Yeah, you can't actually move around the camera even in this menu. So you basically select them from over there, you pop those suckers in here. You don't have any archers right off the bat. They basically go from adventurer to forester. So we're going to use that as the kind of leader squad, as it were. Now I'm gonna, let's see, where is she? So let's put Aya here, who's weirdly happy about this. Let's put her over there. Let's give them 3 healers. Actually, I think we're gonna go for a kind of 2-squad structure here. Let's see, Chicky McGee, you go in the back. There we go, and then we're gonna have some leftovers here, I think. Ah, yeah, we're already out of stuff there. In that case, let's take. You know what? Let's take. No, it's too hilarious to have a naked healer. So we're gonna take her out, and let's put. Ah, there's not even a single guy in that team. There we go. Let's put Jamal here up in the front. He's feeling pretty lucky right now. He's he's looking around like, yeah, you know what? I'm pretty okay with this army we ended up joining. this is an all right time for me. I'm. By the way, if you're wondering why I'm taking them out and making this more of a balanced thing, it's mostly because for some reason I have really bad luck with all the dudes in the army getting killed off. So we're gonna go ahead and save this right here. Do a little bit of part 2 afterwards. And all right, so yeah, I'm looking forward to showing off this thing. I'm really excited about all the different mechanics and stuff that they put into this, and yeah, hope you're interested too. So see you soon.